Everybody hear me okay? Thumbs up? All right, cool. How many people we got on here? Let's see, 2, 3. All right, first thing to note is that this is being recorded. We're moving these meetings public, so this is the first step in doing so. So things that are a little bit off limits, a little bit, it's like all the way, is don't talk about any HR personnel issues. Also, if there's any topic that's related to our partners, please be sensitive to sharing secrets or anything like that, or any special relationships that we might have with any of our partners, or talking about particular problems that they might be working on that they might find sensitive. So please remember that in these conversations, and we'll try to keep it short and simple, to the point. All right, is Max online?
I'm online. Hello.
Hey, love the background.
Thank you.
Very appropriate.
Yeah, that's actually real. No,
Is it real?
That's
Yeah.
a watermark. Yeah.
You send me some food.
Ooh, I think we actually can. All right, should I share the screen?
Go for it.
Share it. Okay, I'm gonna use several things. I'm gonna use our ZenHub roadmap. This is the ZenHub roadmap, and the notes from the middleware sync. I'm actually gonna also use the ZenHub release graph because this is also interesting. So we've been like rescoping and removing things from the scope, adding things to the scope in the past week. You see it kind of went up and down. Unfortunately, there is still some uncertainty left. So we need from everyone who hasn't estimated the issues in the mainnet release to actually estimate them. So with that, we have better predictability what is happening there, but we're making some progress there. It's better to overestimate than underestimate the issue, how much time the issue is going to take. So in the roadmap, I also added another important epic, which is expensive splinters. So those are basically things that would be cheap to fix right now, but would be extremely expensive to fix after the mainnet. And put the Ethereum bridge in here. So Ethereum bridge, Anton is using GitHub projects to manage the Ethereum bridge. So this thing is, the progress is not going to change over the time, but here it's just here as a placeholder for things. Right, so going back to the middleware, what we're working on. So Evgeny is working on refactoring of the try keys. That was basically the result of him trying to add hashes to the account IDs, and we might or might not actually do it without removing iterators. So removing iterators might actually require more work. So we're still looking at that. We have a bunch of story points. You see Evgeny has like 30 story points. Approximately one story point is like 1 day full of work. So he's also working on the vesting contracts. So the other cool thing that Evgeny has proposed last week is that we, like whoever wants, spends a little bit of time working on building like projects that they like on Near. This is just to decompress from this whole, like work from home situation. I think this is a great idea. And for instance, Evgeny is doing it on Fridays. So whoever has a feeling of, feels like they need to do something else, you can build some projects on Near. That's a great idea. Also, we discussed with Evgeny and Ilya that we might not disable the transfers through the runtime conditional compilation, which is an important thing, but we still have some discussion going on in there. I think we finalized the discussion with Ilya about you're getting rid of the state rand finally. So that's good. Nikolai has onboarded. Everyone, welcome Nikolai. Hey Nikolai, thanks for joining us. Hello.
Hi guys.
He's still working on JetBrains. Hey, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi and say how happy I'm joining Near. So
we could do a full intro at all hands.
Okay, are you joining us for the all hands or not?
Is this all hands or there are some other all hands?
No, this is like an engineering sync. Like we're going into like technical details. All hands involves the entire company.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah.
Okay, and when it's gonna be? It's also on Mondays, or it's
right after
all
this
hands
meeting.
is in 1 hour from now.
Oh, okay. I'll try to join. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So Nikolai
Just
on board and
clarify,
rapidly.
it's all hands involves everyone across the whole project, not the company. It's not a company.
Yeah, community.
Just a reminder to everyone, this is going to be public.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So Nikolai is onboarding pretty rapidly. He already shared a couple of very interesting documents. I invite everyone to read it. The extremely valuable document is like the first-hand experience that he had. He's a very experienced person, and he already gave like valuable feedback of how it feels from someone coming from the outside to read our documentation, try to reproduce the steps from our tutorials. So yeah, he's just familiarizing with things. Alexei is helping him, I think, right now with understanding the runtime. Alexei himself is working on various expensive splinters. Those are the issues that I called, the issues that would be really expensive to fix at post mainnet. And Vlad has a couple of issues left in the RPC. Some stuff from the Mr. Right. He's also doing the renaming. Anton, he's continue working on the Ethereum. The spec, I think, is already done. I think he says he's gonna finish with the ETH prover fixes in like a day or two. And he's gonna switch to the Light client and then to the near Light client implemented in Solidity, and then to the token standard to having token working across the bridge. So what I'm working on, disabling transfers, which I said we might not need to do through the runtime anymore. Genesis Content, I have basically a bunch of issues that are going to be taken from other people because we have a bunch of story points, for instance, on Henning on Evgeny. So I'm going to be like everywhere. Also at the same time, I'm trying to organize together with Ashley the WebAssembly blockchain like huddle and assembly script community group we're trying to organize with William and Kendall. So that's what I've been working on. And this is it.
Excellent. Real quick question, Max, like how many of the in progress and to-dos have all the estimations in them, or how many have remaining estimation work to do?
I mean, basically everything in the middleware has estimates. Most of the things not in middleware do not have estimates. So it would be great if like people working on the release and the chain would estimate them, because we have outliers there. Some issues are disproportionately more complex than other issues. Unfortunately, what ZenHub does, it like just averages out. So we have some large outlier that bumps everything up by a week or more. We won't see it right now. So we need some estimates.
Yeah, this graph looks like we're tracking just basically linearly. So what are there some outstanding issues in chain that you'd like people to focus on to just get estimates on? That would be really great if we just knock out those estimates sooner rather than later.
Well, maybe Alex knows what are the like potential outliers in the chain.
Yeah, Alex, you want to go next? Maybe just hit that topic.
Sure. I actually didn't look yet. I'm going to probably do it today, but I didn't assign estimates yet, especially to the work items related to the stability push. So those would be the most important ones. We have 5 of them related to 5 components of the chain. Yeah, I didn't assign yet the story points.
Cool.
But in general, what happens in chain is we still didn't push the GC. The review is going a little slow, but hopefully we will push it today. I'm making sure that everybody's doing everything for that to happen.
Can we actually push it today? We want. It'll be very ideal if it gets in today, because we will release next version of BetaNet tomorrow, and I highly suspect that this PR will cause something to crash. So it's better that we get it in to the next beta before the next beta release, so that we can catch the crash earlier.
Yep. Yeah. We're gonna push it today. Other than that, there is still one work item outstanding, which is mine with the Doomslag and NFG. I spent most of the previous week figuring out how to fix it, and I think so far I think I will just completely remove Finality Gadget the way I wanted to do it before. I will discuss it later after the all hands with Bowen and Ilya to see if they have any concerns. But other than that, it's full swing stability push. We have myself, Misha, and Evgeny Kapun. We work full time on it. KPR will start working full time on it starting this week. So far, probably I will take over the fifth component because both Bo and Bowen are busy. Well, I will talk to Bo to see if he has spare cycles. But yeah, we're doing the stability push. I would estimate that it will take approximately between 3 weeks and a month, I think, for everybody to get a good understanding of the code they're looking at and covering it with tests. So that's approximately how much it will take for the first iteration. And then we will see if we want to do second or not. Yeah, that's the update.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it'd be great to get those estimates in. I really like this burn down chart. It gives us a really good idea of our trajectory overall. And so the more that people can contribute to it, the better. Thank you, Alex. It's super helpful.
Quick question on that. I don't know if this is like the appropriate place, but how important is calibration on the story points? Like, are we just doing this so that we have like a very, very rough estimate of like, this is how much stuff we're going to do?
I can answer that question, but from my perspective, it seems to be like, I don't know. Maybe Max could better do the calibration pieces because I've been thinking of it as basically 1 day per story point. And each person has sort of like a limited amount of time that they can add, basically so many story points they can add before we ship over a certain period, like 30 days or something like that. But Max, do you want to, that's how I think of it anyway, but Max, what's your perspective?
So I like what you said, Damon, last time, another meeting, that story points are not supposed to be, like in general, they're not supposed to be strictly tied to any kind of time frame, right? For various reasons. They're just supposed to reflect the complexity, but we also need somehow to collaborate them across a very large company. So initially, just to get everyone on board with the same intuition on what story point is, we just say, okay, one story point is 1 day. Later, this might evolve in something more than just like time estimate.
Okay.
But right now it's 1 day.
And is that, sorry, I've been out of this discussion. Actually, Max, I'll follow up async, so I'm not taking up everyone's time with this.
These are important questions, by the way, Peter. So if you want to ask them, it's a good time. But because it's really important that we do calibrate on these things, especially as we move to doing estimations at different teams.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask if it's a linear scale. That's what you mentioned earlier, which is just like, is it 1 through 5? Or are we doing the whole Fibonacci thing or whatever?
No Fibonacci involved this time, unless we look at the sequence and series evaluation. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think so. I think that it should be just pretty straightforward right now. And let's not put too much weight on these things. I say linear. It just means that, we're closing bugs as fast as we're adding them.
Oh, gotcha.
Right. And, if we start to see something where, we're adding bugs and it's like taking the parabolic approach to, the graph, then I think that that's a real problem. But right now I'm not seeing anything. But then again, I'm not sure that we're actually estimating consistently across the project either. But we got to try this. This is actually flexing the right muscles, and we got to do it long term.
Cool. Then the last piece on this, which is tangential, just because it has to do with capacity, which is so this weekend I went through all of the stake wars issues from November and December, and a lot of them converted into issues on other repos after they were triaged. And it looks like they've been maybe sitting there. Should we go through and close those issues if they're out of scope, or are we gonna like just put a tag that says like these are super iceboxed if we're not gonna get to them before mainnet?
It's just icebox.
Mega icebox.
No, just regular icebox. Icebox is not, we're not getting until mainnet. But also, like, we should go through like, if it's in responsible repo, like we should go through them and triage them and put them, because some of them should be fixed. Like from
Right.
what I've seen, some of them should be fixed. Then we just didn't.
Right.
And we like when we keep hitting them, at least like I've personally definitely went and like to file an issue and found that it already was filed during stake wars.
Right. Okay. Well, so what's the answer there? I don't know who's responsible. Like, am I responsible for this? Because
I
of
mean,
ODA?
if it's a DevX issue, for example, near shell, yes, you're responsible to triage
Sure.
and assign it to, like,
But-
if it's backlog or icebox.
I mean, that's all done. But there's stuff that hits core.
If,
Right,
if
like-
it's in core, then it was already triaged. Like if it's in icebox, then it's icebox. If it's not, then it will be fixed.
Okay. All right. Take your word.
Yeah, pile
mean,
on though, Peter. Peter, if you're finding a gap somewhere, just pile on and make it happen. I mean, or,
Sure. I'll just do some detective work on it.
Thanks. All right, Kendall.
Yeah.
I know your audio is jacked.
1 second. Is it robot again?
Yeah, robot.
All right, hang on. Peter. Is that better? No. All right, I'm gonna
Arrange
leave.
norm.
I'm
There we
gonna
go.
leave and rejoin.
Okay, we'll just wait for him to come back.
All right, how we doing now?
Oh, much better. Perfect.
That's better.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And as I was saying, yeah. So we're also using release. Well, I'll just share my screen. with release. Right. So here's the the updated like mainnet release for the Explorer. So as you can see, there's like 3 main epics that we're working on ahead of mainnet, at least for right now. So the most important one, improving performance. This is because we had some serious slowdowns. So the first step of that is done, splitting out like actions into their own table. And for all, you're going to give some more context to this, but it looks like the first round of kind of like testing the load is done, where like we're at least able to work with up to like 85,000 transactions, nearly 2 million blocks, 50 million chunks. So that's good. I think the next step really is just figuring out what the limit is, and then seeing how much further we kind of like need to go as far as like what we end up like refactoring there. And then the other 2 major ones, so contract support. Right now, this is really just displaying some contract information on the account detail page. There's some designs in here if anybody's curious. That is in a PR, so pretty close to getting the first version of that in, and we might add some more like light enhancements to that as well, time permitting. And then the third major epic that we're going to be working on, so this is like these UI UX paper cuts, we're calling them. Basically, like rather than adding in more features, we're thinking there's still like some things that the Explorer does not display very, very clearly. One good example of this is if anybody's taken a look at how we're displaying gas usage, it's certainly not the most intuitive. So that's one example. Another one is we've got like value, which is supposed to be sort of a combination of like the values of NIR that were sent in the different actions, which can be transfers and also like attached deposits and function calls. That's also not particularly clear. So those are just 2 examples. We're going to be adding quite a few more here, but like to summarize, basically the idea is that we're going to be focusing on enhancing the UI UX rather than like adding in a bunch of new features ahead of mainnet. So that's the Explorer. If we pop over, pop over to the wallets. Quite a few more epics here, but some of these are like actually a bit further down the pipe. So like recovery options manager, we're talking about that's in PR. So hoping to finalize that very shortly. Same with this third-party account funding, which if you're more familiar with calling this like link drop, that's basically like using that like link drop contract pattern to allow anybody to fund accounts. Both of those are in the PR stage. So as far as like features that are actually still left, the main sort of like full feature that's really left is this like fungible token supports, some of these other things, improving error handling. There's actually a potential blocker here I wanted to talk about briefly. So this is, some of this at least is dependent on this issue in core. Max or Alex, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but I was just curious. What's like the rough status of this, or like a potential timeline?
Why is it blocking something in the app layer?
Yeah, so this is for on the wallet. We just want to show, like, we actually want to like return some, like surface some of these issues to the user, especially like anything RPC related.
Yeah. So this refactoring is like long finished. I think right now, because you see it's assigned to Sheriff, that means it needs to be documented only.
Got it. Okay.
And that's weird. Oh, I see. It says basically it's in 3 different workspaces in ZenHub. So you can see pipelines. It says show 2 more if you click on it.
Got it.
Yeah, it's in docs pipeline on the main pipeline.
My bad.
Yeah, we should remove mainnet, I think.
So does that mean that it was, does that mean this is live on testnet?
Yes, it just needs to be documented.
Got it.
Is it live on testnet?
No, it is not. Yeah, it is not live on testnet.
It's live on BetterNet.
Okay, my bad.
Got it. All right. Well, that's good to know. So, yeah, I mean, to explain a bit more, yeah, basically like this is, so error handling in the wallet involves like a few different components. It's going to be like, you know, HTTP, which we can obviously handle, RPC, which is really what this pertains to more, but yeah, that's why I was bringing up that issue. So, this one still, we need to, like, we're doing some scoping right now, but this will be like a pretty important feature to be continuously working on until we get to mainnet. And then I don't know if anybody saw some of the discussion around this, but like as of basically last week in like WebKit based browsers, they cleared local storage after 7 days of like no, essentially, I guess, activity on a specific domain from a user, which is not particularly great news for the way that we've been, you know, managing keys since we use local storage. So we're now figuring out, like, we have like essentially like a first pass plan, but we're trying to figure out exactly how this is going to look as we go into mainnet. So those are pretty much the things that we're kind of focusing on right now. And yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Damon, you are muted. Does anyone have any questions?
Damon, you're still muted.
I think my only question is, my only question is for wallet. Do you want to, like, I'm assuming we don't have a burn down chart there because there's no estimates. So maybe adding some estimates would be good.
Yes, yes. We'll be working on that.
All right, my audio is back now. Quick question on ZenHub. I want to remove that mainnet, and I can delete the workspace, but that doesn't delete any issues or anything, right?
It shouldn't, because those are tied to repo. I think ZenHub is really just like a layer on top, unless you're deleting an issue specifically. I believe Max might know more.
It warns me that milestones, epics, and releases may be affected and cannot be undone.
Because issues can be in different pipelines and different workspaces. So it actually tells you is that you will lose the record of these issues being in some, whatever, in process pipeline in mainnet, because it's in different pipeline and different workspace.
All right, I'll delete it and hopefully nothing bad happens. All right, it's gone. All right, cool, thank you. All right, any other major synchronization issues we need to talk about today?
So one thing I would like to discuss about the middleware and chain. So what we saw with one of the issues with RPC is when RPC is interfering with the block production. So I think it's basically surfacing a deeper problem that we might want to solve right now, or just be aware that this can be like a very big rabbit hole in there. And like as far as I understand, I mean, maybe Alex and Ilya and Bowen correct me if I'm wrong, the way we currently have concurrency implemented in chain is that it's all actors exchanging messages, and there is no notion of priorities of any kind of work items. So they all have like equal priorities. So what this issue with RPC shows us is that because RPC requests have like intrinsically the same priority with block production, and they're competing for the same resource like state or runtime, one can spam another one. So it's not the problem of RPC being slow, it's the problem of not having priorities there.
So that is not quite the case, because the two actors, so the way they build the view client and client, they do not have any shared resource besides storage. So it's the storage that is being congested by RPC.
So again, Alex,
they both access Nightshade runtime.
They both also access a POC manager, but it's not about what like the congestion. It's not about RPC being being resource expensive. It's about certain work items coming from different directions don't have priorities with respect to each other. Like whether they are competing for like a mutex state or like storage, or they're competing for an actor, they're gonna compete equally for it.
Go ahead.
So I like, let's first address the high level question. High level question: a validator should never serve any RPCs.
Yeah, that's definitely the case.
In no like production setting would you ever even have a open network socket to outside world on a validator. Like you have a sentry nodes that are distributing load, that are preventing you from DDoS attacks and everything. So sure. Realistically speaking, I understand your point that like having some kind of, especially like some prioritization would make sense, but like realistically what we should be doing is going into direction that like removing bottlenecks and allowing those things to run in parallel on different threads or different processors, which right now is like hardly the case because of like we are using few shared resources. But then like again, it's more of a question like a non-validator node processing blocks and hitting RPCs. What is the extent of like blocking that? That's what we should be evaluating. Like so, if we have
So I hear you addressing two things. One of them is the problem with RPC itself, right? And another one is that we need to do more parallelization. And with the more parallelization, there's always going to be shared resource. Like it's the same, like we cannot not have shared resource, otherwise it would be separate programs running. And with RPC just like, as I said, it's the thing that surfaces the issue. I'm pretty sure we can like halt block production by figuring out like network requests or something like that. Like special kind of network requests that would, interfere with block production, or like we cannot block network requests. And network requests are so rich in their nature that probably like with a very high chance, I think we can block the block production in there. And
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by we cannot block or we can block.
Like, let's say I have a non-validated node that requests a state sync from our validated node. They're gonna block.
Again, validating nodes are not connected to network. There's sentry nodes that are that are isolating. Like, I mean, that's a normal setup. Like, if you're running validator professionally, which I mean, given we like have millions of dollars at stake, pun intended, you'll be running like a setup of like 10 sentry nodes, probably like in different data centers that are accepting incoming connections, and your actual block producing node is sitting behind them.
So basically delegating this problem of like protecting from DOS and prioritization to the developers.
To validators,
through their DevOps, basically.
Yes. At this point, yes.
Maybe this is a stupid question. I mean, it needs to be taken offline, but I don't understand the whole validator can't, like, it seems like validators need to connect to other validators to validate, and some of those validators are going to be outside the organization, right?
So what you do, you set up your node that connects only to your own nodes, and then these nodes connect to everybody else. So instead of having one node that everybody connects to and pretty much can block it in all kinds of ways, you have pretty much like 10, 20. You can have like a scalable number of nodes that are serving as your frontier proxy. That's called like Sentry nodes.
So is this something that's gonna work in our current system? Like, can we set it up like this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, we should try it. And what we should do actually is go to our professional validators who are in, like we're working with already, and actually set it up with them.
My concern with this setup is that it might have some like overhead that reduces the speed, so that it is possible that if it's not set up well, validators can get kicked out because they didn't process and produce blocks in time.
Well, they have a great motivation to set it up correctly.
Validators that produce blocks, and if they're behind something else, how are those blocks getting out?
Through these nodes.
Through the nodes that are acting as proxies?
Yeah. You just set up a bunch of proxies in front of you. Like you don't want the node that actually producing blocks being exposed to network. Otherwise it can be DDoSed and you'll like go offline and lose your block production. So you want as many like as huge surface form as possible so that when you get DDoSed, like you cannot be brought down.
So Sentry nodes can be seen as block producers too, as just the ones that are forwarding on the blocks that are produced internally?
Yeah. But like they are not actual block producing nodes, right? Like they're not running block production code. They just like serve as proxies. Like they actually can be like very light themselves. They don't actually need to validate blocks because they just serve as like they know this a correct block, for example, etc.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm just saying like for like actual production setup, like we should get more knowledge from the people who've been running the setups for like a year now.
I think it makes total sense to have everything blocked off like that. I mean, it's standard, NOC procedures, right?
Yeah.
For firewalls. So we got to figure that part out, but I just want to test it to make sure that, that stuff works.
Yeah, but I mean, like I know like some of the validators already have set up our nodes in something like this. So we should just check in with them. And also maybe like, I mean, that's why we need to move BetaNet to next stage where we're actually getting those validators onboarded. So we can measure performance with that as well.
Right.
It seems like a good thing to document, like a good best practices how to deploy it safely, because not everybody knows that. Probably.
Yeah, like Apache documentation has that for their web servers and stuff.
Sure, I do want to like reemphasize again that the stake will be millions of dollars in reasonable scenario.
Yeah, but for this reason we want to test the setup before. Like for now.
Yes, with professional validators who have this setup.
Yeah, so do we have like a task for creating this setup?
That's what BetaNet is for, yes. And then testnet staking competition or process.
Okay.
Like Stefan is working on this.
Good. All right, well, I'll watch that closely. Interested to see the results there. All right, any other major issues we need to talk about today? Going on 30 minutes. All right, again, stressing only stability fixes and performance issues going forward, right? Only work on blocking bugs, please. And if you find that people are working on other things, please let them know to work on only stability and performance issues, right? Thank you very much.
And Genesis.
And Genesis.
So there are questions. I have questions on this actually. So Max just mentioned today that there are a few things that may or may not land by mainnet. So why we are even working on things that may not land? Like why not only work on the things that should land absolutely no matter what?
Can you remind me what are those things were?
I think you mentioned some stuff that Eugene was working on or something like that, like storage related.
Well, I mean, because there are things that would be extremely expensive to do post mainnet, and it's reasonably cheap to do right now. And
I think that the real question, I mean, the question is pretty much like we should focus not on those things, but actually on everything else, which is stability and
Well, I mean, also
I
what
guess
he's working is the
performance.
stability.
So-
I mean, look, if it's 100 times more expensive to fix post mainnet, and it's
It-
like a couple of days of work today, we should be fixing it right now.
While I am stressing these things as sort of black and white issues, either you work on them or you don't, all of these really are shades of gray, right? So if there are individual, and there's not that many issues right now, if there are things that we see people shouldn't be working on, like just ask, right? And Vlad, that's an excellent question. And there can't be that many GitHub issues that we can't just sit down and read through right quick and figure out whether or not this is the most appropriate thing to do. So I guess just ask Max directly, and then if there are problems with that particular bug or fix, or it's too big, or you don't think we should be doing it, please do let us know. But again, you can't just say, all right, if it's not blocking, don't work on it. I encourage everybody to go read through the bug GitHub issues, because it's always going to be a shade of gray kind of a thing. Does that make sense, Vlad?
Well said.
Okay.
For sure.
I think, the main point here is that also runtime hasn't actually had issues, like actual stability per se issues. It's more DevX issues and kind of related things, like performance, like possible performance problems or kind of possible edge cases.
Also, angles of attack, like specifically what Evgeny is working on, also eliminates very trivial vector of abuse.
Mm-hmm. Like one of the things I think we might be working on too is performance comparison between running in a Docker versus running from source, and making sure that there are no bottlenecks there that we're missing, that kind of stuff. And I know that stuff hasn't necessarily been added to GitHub, but people will be working on them, and they're not marked as blocking, I think. Just one example.
It is added to GitHub, by the way.
Oh, excellent, even better. All right. Excellent question, Vlad. Thank you. And anything else we want to talk about today? Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.